Feel the body as an empty vessel. Feel something occupying the body. It is not solid like the body, it is more like liquid. It can come out and in. Just try to sense it, try to feel it. The body is a hotel room which we occupy for some time. Feel the presence in the body. It is not the body. Hold that presence. Try to divide the attention. One attention on breathing with the rhythm, and one attention on the presence inside. Let us hold this state for 1 minute. Slowly come back. Slowly open your eyes. You can come in the first row, please. Yeah.
So we maybe start with a quick recap of what we discussed over the last couple of days. First is, how many centers do we have? Which are the moving center, all our movements, the thinking center, the instinctive center, all the senses, and the feeling center, all the emotions. And they are represented by the 4 aces of the 4 suites. Before that, I think one more very important point that we discussed was the purpose of taking birth. That's the context for doing this. The purpose for taking birth is gathering consciousness or self-consciousness. And currently, consciousness is there in the centers. It's mixed with the functions. And if we are able to perform the functions in what state of attention? Divided attention. What is divided attention? Double arrowed, yes, but what does it mean? What am I doing practically? One arrow of attention on what I am doing, and the second on the fact that I am doing that. So I am talking, but the one attention is on what I am talking, and the second is the fact that I am talking. I am moving, like the movement, and I am moving. The thought, and I am thinking. So that divided attention, if we do, we are able to extract consciousness. And for this, we need functions. And then there are 4 functions in the human body, which correspond to the 4 centers. Then we saw the first division of the centers, which was the left and the right, which correspond to the positive and the negative parts of the centers. Sorry. Then we saw the 3 horizontal division of the centers, What are the three horizontal divisions? The bottommost is zero attention, which is the moving, which is the jack. Then the middle one is
mechanical part. Middle, low, bottom one is the
mechanical part.
Yeah.
The middle one, that is queen, that is the attracted attention or the feeling part of it, emotional part of it. And the top one is directed attention, which is the king, which is the thinking part of every center. And yesterday, what center had we discussed? Clubs. Clubs is what center? Instinctive center. What is the instinctive center? All the sensations, yes. All the bodily functions, okay. And then we looked at the jack, queen clubs. What is the jack of instinctive center? What does it do? Fully programmed. All the functions go on automatically. We notice it only when something goes wrong. The signs of a person who's living in that center is they live their daily routine, they're obsessed about health, they give you health tips, and they're not interested in doing different things, not interested in friends or other areas like sports medicine. Then we move to the queen. What is the queen? Extremes, yes, and emotional part. So it's emotional about all the sensations. They have very strong preferences towards what is pleasurable to them and what is not preferable thing. I think they label the impressions as pleasant, unpleasant. They go after sensual cravings or become a victim of them. They cannot help itself is the word, right? Cannot help itself is the word. Comforts, luxury, good life, and advertising is targeted to them. And then he finally saw the king. The king is the one that controls energy not just to the instinctive center but to all the other centers in the body. It does not like being observed, and the one place where we can see it is in times of emergency or danger. Right, when we are about to get into an accident, but we are able to just avoid it in the last minute or these kind of things. And today we move to the second center, which is spades, which is the moving center.
Okay. So today we are going to talk about the moving center. I want to just add here that in my personal journey, the moving center has played a big role in that the muscles of the body. Now, supposing we take a young child, when the child is born, a baby, and the child cries. What happens when a child cries? They say the spirit comes in, and that is why it cries. The spirit comes in and it creates a spark between the two lower chakras, which are called as Muladhara and Swadhisthana. And the spirit rises through the backbone, and this rising through the backbone in yoga is called as Sushumna. This is the electric current which runs this body-brain system. So it is that electricity which runs the body-brain system. And where there's electricity, there is an electrical field at right angles to the flow of electricity. So each moment, this electricity called as spirit or Atma is running this computer, and it is moving up the backbone. And one day that electricity stops, the body-brain system stops working. Now, we know that when an electrical current flows at right angles to the flow, there is what is called an electrical field. This electrical field is what we call as soul. So what rises in the backbone as a current is the spirit or Atma, and that creates an electrical field called the soul, or which we can call as Jeev. In Gujarati, we call it as Jeev. I don't know in other languages. Now, electricity is pure. It is never good or bad. Nothing can change in electricity. What changes are done is in the soul journey. Now, when the soul creates its electrical field, at the same time, simultaneously, in the body-brain system, another field is created, which is through breath. So let us just try to understand this. I don't know if you can draw this. The electricity comes up through the backbone. It forms a field throughout the body. And that field, the electrical field, it is again what you call touched by another field which is created through breathing. So when the child is born, it cries, and it starts breathing. Now, I'll just try to make you understand that within the breath, yoga says there is something called prana. So prana is also electricity, and the breath is the air which we breathe. So we breathe the air goes in the lungs, there is an exchange of oxygen, and the air goes out. Now, when we breathe in air, together with the air, yoga says there is something called prana. And that prana does not go in the lungs. Right? It separates from the air at these two places. So I breathe air from here. At this point, the prana and air separate, and the air goes into the lungs. The prana goes in a nadi, which is called either a spingla or ida, and it wraps around the backbone, and it comes down to a spot called the perineum. The perineum is the most important area of the body. From the perineum, it bounces up, and the prana is absorbed by this electrical field of the soul. And that is the breathing of the electrical field of the soul, the prana, which comes in through the ida and pingla. So just as the body is kept alive by the breath, and when we breathe last, the body stops working. Similarly, the electrical field of the soul is kept alive through the prana which comes through the breath. And that is why breath is life, and when breath stops, life stops. Now here we must understand something, that what happens at the end of life. So all our experiential memory, again, please try to understand this, experiential memory, different from eventful memory. I meet you, that is an event. But I meet you and I say I don't like this person. That don't like is an experience. It is what is called a sanskar. So I meet you, I say I don't like you. Inside I say it, outside I show I'm very happy to meet you, right? And I'm giving myself the experience of hate, what they call rag and dvesh. Okay. Am I coming across in this? You won't find this in any books. That is why I'm trying to explain it to you. So that experience of, and there are four kinds of experiences which we pass through in life, right? Rag, dvesh, asmita, the ego, and abhidevesh, the fear, right? What we pass through in life. And these, at the end of life, all the times I felt frightened, all the times I've been attached to Rag, all the times that I've had hate for someone or envy for someone, it all gathers together and forms one drop of perfume. So all my experiences in life, they gather together and they come together as one drop of perfume. So let us say all the experiences of anger gather together, all the experiences of jealousy make one drop of perfume. And that perfume is what is carried forward. Only perfume can be carried forward. Only smell can be carried forward. Now, how is it carried forward? We have to go into this. I hope you're with me in this. Right? So, when we breathe in, the prana and breath separate here, and the prana goes down into the perineum. And from the perineum, it is taken up by the soul, the electrical field of the soul, and it gives the petrol to that electrical field of the soul. Now, when I breathe in and the prana goes down, when I breathe out, the prana which comes out is of the previous breath. Try to understand this, that it has come down to the perineum. From the perineum, it is taken by the electrical field of the soul, right? And there it gives what you call the petrol or keeps it alive. And the old prana comes down. Now, this exchange happens at Mooladhara and Swadhisthana. And it happens simultaneously. There are no two separate movements. When we breathe in, it is one movement called inspiration. When we breathe out, it is one movement called expiration. These are two separate movements. But the taking in of new prana and giving out of old prana happens simultaneously in a figure of 8. Happens in a figure of 8. He just show you. It's very small, nobody can see. I will take a new page. Yeah, Android page. Huh? Mooladhara and Swadhisthana, and between them the figure of 8. Right. So what happens? The old prana comes down from one side and the new goes in from at the same time, right? And there is exchange of prana in the electrical field of the soul, the Atma or the spirit gave the spark to life, created the first electrical field, and that electrical field is fed by our breathing. It is kept alive by our breathing. Now, because this goes in and the old comes out, so we breathe in, and the old has come down into the perineum, and it comes back through either Ida or Pingla and meets the breath again over here, and we breathe out the old prana and the old breath come out. Is this, am I making it clear? I'm trying my best over here. Pardon? It takes in something called a kind of energy it takes in. Right? I'm not, this time I was going to talk about the law of octave. So you would have done the octave of breath, but we again changed our subject halfway. So it takes a kind of maintenance energy from there. It keeps that field alive in a certain sense. Yeah. Can you speak in the, I'm going to be 67 this year, right?
So, does the prana penetrate Swadhisthana and Muladhara, or it just swirls around it?
It swirls around. Swirls around. Or you can say it does penetrate in the sense that just as we have two lungs of the physical body, the two lungs of that body is the, what do you call, Muladhara and Swadhisthana. Muladhara.
But the Muladhara and the Swadhisthana, they are different planes altogether, right?
The Muladhara is in the perineum, and at 45 degrees to the Muladhara, where our sex organ touches the body, that is the approximate place of the Swadhisthana. Right? They are like this on a horizontal plane. Muladhara is about the size of an old 8-anna coin, if you remember. And Swadhisthana is about the size of a 4-anna coin, which are not, I don't know whether we still get them or not, right? So Swadhisthana is one of the smallest triplets. You can say that what you call Muladhara is the pelvic plexus. Okay, I'll tell it in another way. This is the physical body. And behind the physical body is an electrical field. It is this electrical field which we are talking about. And the Theosophists call it as the etheric. This etheric body, the chakras are in the etheric body. But they have a physical counterpart in the physical body. Right? They have a plexus and they have a gland. So if you take the Muladhara chakra, right, if it is the pelvic plexus, right, and then the glands would be either the gonads or the ovaries, male or female. Right? Similarly, if you take the Swadhisthana, it could be the hypogastric plexus, right, and it could be the, what do you call, organ for sex in male and female. Right? So there is a physical counterpart, but the physical counterpart does not tell us what is in the chakra. Right? But we have to, it can tell us if we study it deeply. We study it deeply. I'm just trying to tell you what I want to talk about the moving center. Okay? And I'm just trying to have an introduction in the sense that what is the importance of the moving center? The importance of the moving center. I hope we understood this, that the prana which comes out with the breath is not the prana which went in, right? It is the previous prana which came out. And this is what I wanted to just bring to you. And again, it beats the breath over here and comes out.
So when we breathe right now,
Yeah.
one which is going in.
In the,
So when we breathe in right now,
yes.
and now when we breathe out, isn't this the one which we have just now taken, or this
No,
is the one before that?
That one comes to the perineum, it is exchanged inside, and the one which came out comes with the breath.
So it is one breath before.
One breath previous. Right. Now, let's try to understand this. Now, what will happen at the moment of death? What will happen at the moment of death? You will have one balanced prana. Because when we breathe out, we die. But that was the prana of the previous death. So at the moment of death, we are holding one balanced prana. Now we said that all our experiential memory, I hope you, understood what I'm saying. Not the events memory, not that I met you, right? But I met you, I said friend inside, then that experiential memory, it distills into one drop of memory. And that experiential memory collects in the last prana. It collects in the last prana. So, that when the soul travels after death, this experiential memory is still with the soul. Now, I don't want to go into a lot of details because a lot of things happen at the 7th month. And we all have a puja for that 7th month. Nobody understands why we have it. It's very important because it is like at that time, the die of the soul is made. The die of the soul is made at that time. Now, when the child breathes in, right, and that breath goes out, which is the prana which goes out of the previous. And that prana had all the memory patterns, what we call as sanskar. Please understand, these are still in a very liquid form. They are not what you call something which has become a part of personality as yet. And so with the prana, when that electrical field is formed, it gives the shape to that electrical field, right? So the inner electrical field has the shape of my experiential memory or sanskar. And the whole effort is to be free of those sanskars through consciousness so that the electrical field can once again merge back into the electricity from which it came. So it is like we have a flash drive in our computer. So I want to pass on something from my computer to her computer. So I collect all the memory in the flash drive and she puts it in her computer and it goes through into her computer. Similarly, this last breath, the last prana, right? It has all the memory and it is that flash drive which travels. Again, it is not memory of events, it is experiential memory. The sanskar I'm giving to myself each. And that gives this electrical field the memory patterns. Of course, it is not yet personality as such. Personality will be built at 5 years. that electrical field will have many, many, what do you call, possibilities, right? But only those possibilities activated around 5 to 6 years will become active, which we call our personality, and the rest will remain in a kind of suspension beyond. So it is like this when we were children. We used to have a drawing book. That drawing book would be full of numbers, and we would join 2 and 14 and 15. So at 5 years, the numbers are joined, and the animals she's shown is a fox, or some other numbers are joined, and the animal shown is a lion, whatever. So at 5 years, that is the personality which is built, and that is to that electrical field. How does this prana give, what do you call, like you give water to plants, to which possibility has water been given? Now, how is this water given? It is given in 2 ways. Am I coming across till now? Right? Now, every thought I have, every emotion I have, so we have the 4 senses, every sensation I have, it records in the muscles of the body, right? So I'm thinking, I don't like her, my muscles contract. He makes me happy by praising me, my muscles relax. Can you see? Each moment what is happening in the muscles of the body. Where else is it happening? Where else is it happening? Very easy. Where else is it happening? In the breath. If I'm angry, I have a certain type of breath. If I'm in a state of greed, I have a different kind of breath. So every emotion I'm passing through, every feeling I'm passing through, every thought that is going on, it changes the muscles and it changes the breath, right? So that prana is going in with the breath, and that prana is conditioned by my sanskar, that is the feeling I'm passing through. And it adds up or subtracts from that electrical field. Can you understand the paramount importance of breathing in rhythm? The paramount importance of breathing in rhythm. Because as we breathe in rhythm, that the prana goes into rhythm, that the prana is not carrying new sanskar, or I got angry on him, right? Because in breathing in rhythm, I cannot get angry, first of all. It's not possible. My breath has to change to get angry. And as the prana goes into rhythm, over a long period of time, the whole electrical field sort of takes a shape of rhythm and balance. And this is the most important thing. That is why it's very important to breathe in rhythm. Now, so each moment, our experience is passed on to that electrical field called the soul. The soul gathers more sanskar, or it, what do you call, sheds sanskar, depending on what we are passing through. Can you understand this much, right? Now, where does this electrical field, which is laid throughout the body, what does it pass through? Supposing the physical counterpart of the electrical field is my nerves, that is the electricity of the body. We have 3 nervous systems, and all the electrical impulses pass through wires called the nerves. So where are those nerves? Where are they laid out? Through the muscles. Through the muscles. And that is why the muscles is the soul. The muscles of the body is the physical counterpart of the soul. If we can change the muscles of the body, we have changed our soul to help it rise in consciousness, or to, if the muscles become more tense. And the beauty is that everything we've experienced is in the muscles, and by relaxing the muscles, we are creating a situation where we are free of sanskar, because that electrical field is passing through the muscles of the body, and the muscles are the moving center of the body. Moving center is lifting the hand, but I want to lift the hand. Unless the muscles contract, I can't lift the hand. Unless an electrical current passes, I cannot contract the hand. It is this whole network of muscles and nerves, which is the physical part of what we call the soul. And for us, the soul is more important than the Atma, because nothing changes in the Atma, right? So in a way, it is the physical part of the Atma. That is why I wanted to just give this small introduction about the moving center. Why the moving center is so important in our inner journey. It is the most important part of our inner journey. And when a disciple stays with his master, so I did not stay at his home. I used to meet him nearly every day. Then he observes the teacher. He doesn't learn just by the teacher telling him things. Each moment he's observing the teacher, and he's absorbing the teacher. So one of the things about Mr. Tavaria was that when he would sit down on a chair, it would be like a song playing on some musical instrument. All the muscles of the body would be relaxed. And he had that conscious control over the muscles of the body. And it would be so wonderful just to watch him sitting on a chair. And so what I'm trying to tell you is that relaxing the muscles is very important. We did this small exercise in the beginning. I'm going to now talk about another exercise. I may not be able to finish this today, does not matter, but I want to talk about this exercise. I remember that from 1975 to 1982, Ramdulare Bapu, one Swami, was my guru. And whenever I was staying in the ashram, his ashram, I had this thing that early in the morning I would get his tea from the kitchen and get the newspaper and take the tea and newspaper to him, and just to observe it. So the disciple drinks the guru, he just doesn't learn from the guru, right? And it's the way of his reading a newspaper, the way he would have his tea, it was like a song. It was so much in rhythm and balance. So we realize that just by breathing in rhythm, the prana comes into rhythm, the muscles of the body come into rhythm, the nervous system comes into rhythm. That is why it is so important. And I'm going to talk about a small exercise which I hope all of us should do. And that is, when you wake up in the morning, don't wake up. Don't wake up. Right? Just relax the body. Just as we ran our attention through the body, run your attention through the body and relax all the muscles of the body. Now, when we are waking up, there is not so much of thought formation in the body. It is when we remember the news. Of course, nowadays nobody reads the newspaper, but when we remember the news, that the thoughts start flowing very fast. I won't say flowing, moving very fast. So, and relax the body, be awake, conscious, in a state of heightened awareness, and try to go back. Try to go back into your state which you were in a few minutes before you woke up. Now, just now we did a small exercise that within the body, try to sense another body, that somebody is occupying the body. And we said it is like liquid. It can go up and down like the waves, right? And of course, when I'm very angry, the waves are in turmoil. Right? So when you're in that state in the morning, you've not opened your eyes. So the most important thing is don't open the eyes. Light destroys memory, right? So don't open. When we die, at the moment of death, we see light. And we see light and all the memory of this life is destroyed. Gone. Right? Similarly, we wake up in the morning and immediately we open our eyes and light goes through the eyes and all the memory of the night is destroyed completely. So don't open your eyes, go back a little, relax the body, and try to come in that state before the thoughts of the day start forming. And you will be breathing with the music in rhythm and just try to remain in that heightened state of awareness for 5 to 10 minutes. It would be a beautiful way to start your day. Now, science records 4 states of the brain. And I'm just going to talk about them a little. 5 states of the brain, sorry. The new one was just what you call discovered about 10, 15 years ago. The first state of the brain is what we are, the monkey chattering all the time, the state in which we all are, and they call it as beta. The second state, where we have calmed quite a bit and we are very calm inside and things are moving rhythmically and harmoniously within us, is what they call the alpha state. Supposing in this state of beta, we are moving in between 20 to 40 cycles per second. In alpha, we are down to 12 cycles per second. And it is a very calm and peaceful state. So when you wake up in the morning, when you go back, you will immediately touch the alpha state and you'll be able to remain in that state whatever time you have, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, right? And if you have time, even up to 30 minutes, you could stay in that state. Now, sometimes you may be able to go even deeper. And a deeper state is where it is about 6 to 12 cycles per second, and that will be the theta state, which is a very, very deep state of silence, calmness, right? And the final state which science talks about is the delta state, where there are 3 to 6 cycles per second. That is the state of deep sleep. Our rishis have said that the state of deep sleep is samadhi without consciousness. Here we have entered that state with full consciousness. We are fully aware. We have gone back and we may touch that state of samadhi where we experience the deep silence center in the brain. So science is talking about this. I would like you to go back every morning into the alpha state and start your day with that alpha state. Now, another thing about the alpha state, there is a certain power in that state. When I'm thinking all the time, right, in beta,
When you say 12 cycles, what do you mean?
they measure the frequency of the brain in hertz. where the brain is moving in these cycles. And as we go into these deeper states, it becomes very rhythmic, very rhythmic.
There were voltage oscillations in the neurons.
He's a scientist. So, yeah. Now, I'm thinking all the time. My teacher used to say we have 120 thought forms per second, out of which 16 become thought. So we have 16 thoughts per second, and this is based on the speed of impulses in the brain which travel at 1/16th of a second. Now, in this state of so many thoughts, thought power cannot be so powerful. Right? We don't have any exact English word for it, but in Sanskrit we call it as sankalp. Right? So we have two words in Sanskrit, vichar and sankalp. Vichar is the thought, and sankalp is the what do you call the power in the thought. Right? So in English we say resolution, but it doesn't really translate into sankalp. Yeah. So in that state of alpha, because thoughts have calmed down completely, from 120 we may be making only 60 thought forms per second, the power of thought increases. So if we have practiced this for 2-3 months and got a small grip upon this, then at night before going to sleep, we can do some homework that what are the tasks which I have to perform tomorrow? Now, I may be running a business and somebody tomorrow is going to come with a possibility of a big contract for me, right? And it is not sure just now whether I'm going to get that contract or he may not give it to me. Now, visualization is one of the techniques to move into alpha. So in alpha, there are thought forms, there are no thought, no language over there. So in this state of alpha, early in the morning, I visualize, right, this contract of mine. Now, when we visualize, we must make a drawing of it. I cannot, the minute I think about it over there, I'm finished. Right? So then you'll have to practice making a drawing where your contract is completed, you're happy, that person is happy, and you just put that over there. Then when you meet that person in the day, there are more chances you will get the contract than not get the contract. Okay? Understand what? You have put the sankalp in at that time in the morning when you're practicing this. And of course, if you can go into deeper states from alpha, it will be much more powerful and etc. Right? Now, I've diverted a lot from my moving center today, but I'm going to complete this. Now, what goes into the making of a present moment? What is a present moment? How does the brain or the mind understand the present moment? Don't say 1 second in the clock. I know that. So each moment, our 5 senses are taking impressions from reality, right? And they are creating a frame. They are creating a frame inside. And that frame which is experienced inside is what we call as the present moment, right? So each moment reality is coming in, and that is the what we call as a frame. And they say in the state of beta, we are processing between 20 and 38 frames per second, right? But we are not really processing because it's all happening automatically, and we are hardly aware of what is going on in the brain and mind. If somebody hypnotizes us, maybe that person will become more aware of what is happening. Now, science has come to, especially by studying Tibetan monks, there is one more wave in the brain, and they call it gamma. And in gamma, you can process consciously more than 40 frames per second, and it stay in certain states of gamma, you can process 100 frames per second, which is very, very high. Now, if I see you and it takes me, say, 3 seconds to understand you, that is, understand you as a person. Now, supposing I enter a time where 3 seconds is birth and death, or I say there is a cell in the brain, I'm just talking, there's a cell in the brain which has a lifetime of 3 seconds. So birth and death for that cell is 3 seconds. What would it convert to in our lifetime? 3 seconds equal to 70 years, right? 3 seconds equal to 70 years, right? So in the time of that cell, 3 seconds is equal to 70 years, right? My 70 years is a lifetime. 3 seconds is also a lifetime, right? And everything is related in this way. So I look at you for 3 seconds. But if I'm processing at a much higher speed, then I make 3 seconds equal to 20 years. Then I see you not in 3 seconds, I see you in 20 years. Can you see how our understanding develops by leaps and bounds? So that is one more thing. And one of the ways they have found science of activating this gamma waves is through activating our vagal tone, the vagus nerve. Right? I don't think this time I'll be able to talk about the vagus nerve, but on YouTube I've given a lot of talks on the vagus nerve. I mean, maybe you could access them also. Now, my main aim, like I said, of talking about this is that the moving center is the soul, the gene, and if we can work with the moving center, many things become possible, right? And one of the simplest form of working with the moving center, most simple, is that in a day, keep a timer in your watch for 3-4 times in a day. Just sit down and relax the body from inside. Again, sit down and relax the body from inside. Another thing you can do is you can relax the head portion, and we'll go into that when we are talking about the moving center. I hope I've been able to express what I'm trying to express, right? Now, the first step in our inner journey we saw was non-expression of negative emotions. The second step is self-observation. Self-observation. And we have not talked about self-observation this time. But basically, self-observation means to divide ourselves into 2 people, right? It is Rajen, and I is the person looking at Rajen. So she insults me, it or Rajen is upset, I am looking. And this creates a space between it and I. Right? and I is looking at A. Now, when we start our practice of self-observation, which is the easiest center to observe? The moving center. Because my hands and legs, I can see them. I cannot see my thoughts. Right? I cannot see my feelings. I cannot see my sensations. So, the moving center is an external part which we can see. Of course, the muscles are not the external part. They are the, what you call, hidden part of the moving center. But at least we can start from our arms and legs. And we are observing, okay, Rajen is walking, Rajen is gesturing, right? And that is why it is very easy to observe the moving center. It's the center which helps us to relate to the physical world. The physical world comes in through the five senses, and the way we want to relate, what comes in is decoded, a thought is formed, the thought goes to the moving center, and I say, okay, please take this cup of tea or whatever. Now, the moving center has a kind of intelligence, right? So if I'm walking through this pathway between the chairs, it makes out how much this chair is on this side. If I walk a little this, I'll bang my leg, right? So it has a kind of intelligence. And sometimes when I'm in a hurry, in a haste, it is possible that I overpower the moving center and I bang my leg against the chair. Now, what is the positive and negative of the moving center? It is the Jack of Spades. Positive is activity, the negative is rest, relaxation. As we observe the moving center, a time comes when we have some kind of control over our hand movements, our gestures, our unnecessary movements of the legs, etc. It's difficult to observe emotions, and when self-observation goes very deep, we come to a state where we can observe our likes and dislikes. But what we can see, and I have written this in first person, that this is the process which I personally went through, is that I could not observe my emotions, but I saw that with each moment, my muscles, with each emotion, with each thought, there was a contraction or relaxation in the muscles. It was reflecting what was going on in the other centers. And we talked about this. I told you that it's nice to go for a walk and just observe. And suddenly you get a phone call giving you some news. Your legs will start walking fast or slow. You'll be gesturing in a different way. The emotional center, the news which has come in, has reflected on the moving center. And every emotion reflects on the moving center. Now, simple thing that she's insulted me, and I'm hypnotized by this insult, which Gurdjieff calls as identification. At that same moment, if I remember to relax my muscles, will the identification break a little? Break. I won't react with that. Right? I just remember to relax my muscles. And if I can make a habit, a spontaneous habit of relaxing the muscles, over a period of time, all negative emotions will vanish from our lives. So we have these associations in our, what we talked about these associations, that a phone came, the thinking center phoned the moving center. I started walking fast. Now, at that moment, if I relax the muscles, I'm breaking this mechanical association. I'm breaking the mechanical association. Now, sometimes something from memory comes. I'm taking a walk and I may remember yesterday's movie which I saw on TV, and there may have been some excitement scenes on that movie, and suddenly my muscles get tense through excitement. I've had a thought of excitement, it is reflected in the muscles again. Now, the opposite is also true, that certain postures, certain mudras, certain asanas, by taking those asanas, you give shape to your thinking and emotional centers. You reshape the centers. So over a period of time, our muscles come into our field of consciousness. We have to recognize our physical manifestations. When I'm worried, what happens? What happens in my muscles? When I'm angry, do I knit my eyebrows or don't I knit my eyebrows? Right? Or do I frown a lot? If you've observed people, some people frown a lot, and you will see these people are hardly ever happy, right? Because this frowning is always related to some form of dislike inside. Many times in shame, we put our hands on our face. Many times we take out our tongue. When we are surprised, our mouth opens. When we are exhausted and tired, our eyelids droop. When sadness is on the face, the smile goes down like this. And many people have drooping lips, and they must work upon their lips so that because you're holding sadness inside. Some people have very bad moving centers. They look bored the whole day, as if nothing in life can give them a stimulus. There are people who walk very stiffly. Many twist their hands and legs in very funny ways. And all this is a reflection of what is going on inside. A little louder.
So some of the movements like frowning and stuff, I mean, they related to the instinctive center too, without could it be involuntary?
It is involuntary, but we'll say mechanical. But as we observe, they all come into our field of consciousness.
It's from the instinctive center, not from the moving center.
It is the instinctive center sends it to the emotional center, which labels like or dislike. Supposing you're feeling uncomfortable in the chair, the instinctive center sends the message to the emotional center that the chair is uncomfortable. It does not tell the emotional center the chair is bad or good. This is just its way of protecting us, right? Immediately the emotional center will label it as bad or good or like or dislike. Get what I'm trying to say?
So things like, for example, a nervous twitch,
Yeah.
right, which is probably instinctive, or maybe because of, if you take it to the extreme, things like Parkinson's disease, where they have involuntary movements.
Yes.
Now, can they be also controlled by
Let's take it in a different way. That if you agree with this, I have a certain disease in the body. Now, supposing I'm holding one thought over here, right? Supposing it's a thought of envy, right? Or a thought that nobody appreciates me. And that thought comes very often in the day. Very often means very, very often in the day. Then every time I'm holding that thought over here, am I releasing certain chemicals in the body? Are my muscles becoming tense and relaxed? Is it affecting my nervous system? Now, over 20 years, by holding that thought for a longer period of time, if it gives me Parkinson's, in the end, it is the moving center and the emotional center and thinking center. Can you understand what I'm trying to say? So, it has now what you call precipitated into a disease. Precipitated into a disease. And I don't know if you read my teacher's book, The Purpose of Birth and Death. In that, at the end, he has given intensity charts. Each emotion leads to what disease and what happens. It's talked about that. So negative emotions contract the muscles, pleasant emotions relax the muscles. And over a period of time, these grooves become fixed in us, and sort of impressions from outside just travel on these automatic grooves. So when we are relaxing the muscles, we are in a state of directed attention. We are in the king, right? And we are paying attention to the muscles of the body and relaxing the muscles. And this is a very, very powerful exercise. Now, one exercise which my teacher taught me, one of the things he used to say was that we have a lot of tension around the eyes. And in all these areas, we are holding a lot of tension. So he had given me the exercise of palming. So in palming, for 5 minutes every day, don't have to do it. We hold the eyes in the here, and we just observe the darkness, and simultaneously we keep relaxing the muscles of the face. So we go around the eyes, say 5, 6 times, go around here, and relax the very, very small muscles over here. And over a period of time, the face relaxes. Otherwise, we don't know how much of tension we are holding in the face. And this is a beautiful exercise. And it has a direct relation on our sanskars. It cuts karma like anything. Simple exercise. Now, I pay attention to you, but when I have to relax my muscles inside, it is internal attention. The whole of science is nothing but external attention. Science studies the physical world outside. But when I want to take attention inside, what I gain is self-knowledge. And self-knowledge comes from taking attention inside. Science comes from taking attention outside. So we start with relaxing our muscles inside.
So when you keep the palm, you have to keep your eyes open or closed.
You can keep them open or closed, but you have to see darkness. You have to look at darkness. Right? Keep them closed initially. And then you can also later on keep them open and rotate the eyes a little to relax all this over here. Now, in an animal, we see that there is the moving center and the instinctive center are sort of joined together. The animal has only 4, what you call, aims in life. Ahar, food, bhai, fear, maithun, sex, and nidra, sleep. These are the 4. Animal does not come out of that. And we always see that whatever movement the animal does is for these 4. Is for these 4. And this, the animal is instinctively programmed from birth, right? So it has to just, the movements just follow the instinctive center. But in man, a man may not be able to outrun an animal. He may not be more powerful than an animal. But a man can learn intricate dancing steps, right? He can learn what you call fast movements, where sometimes the moving center is working at the speed of the emotional center, which we call it karate and this thing, right? And he can learn sports where there's a rhythmic flow of movements inside. And this is why man is different from animals in the moving center. Right? He has a control over his moving center, and he can train the moving center to perform much higher activities than what animals can do. We may say that a bird builds a very intricate nest, and man cannot build such a nest. But again, how to build a nest is programmed in the bird. It has not gone to learn from everywhere. The mother bird has not taught the child bird how to build a nest, right? And whilst all dance movements or even walking, the first movement on our feet has to be learned. So man moving center when he is born is nearly empty. He learns all the movements from outside. Typical thing if you see in birds is when they are building intricate nests and you take out certain parts of the nest, they won't repair it from there. They don't have that adaptive intelligence to repair it where you broke. They'll go back and make a new nest, right? So that is programmed in the birds. This is the age of the moving center. It is the center in most value today. And in a way, it makes me very happy because for me, it is the spiritual center also. We love to reward those with highly developed moving centers, whether they're sportsmen, whether they're inventors, whether they're software engineers, they are all paid at very high salaries. Now, we know that the moving center is divided into three parts. Yeah, please.
So software engineer, how is it considered a moving center activity?
Yeah, so in software, where you're developing software, the king of spades will come in. The king of spades. I'll come to that because it is spatial. When you're developing software, it is like if you see all the devis in the they have yantras. Have you seen a yantra? Right? The most famous yantra is the Shri yantra. And these yantras are not what you call static diagrams. So put it on paper, it is a static diagram. But when the disciple is taught by the guru, right? When the disciple is taught by the guru what the yantra is, he has to visualize it as a moving diagram, right? So when you're creating software, the diagrams which are going on within the brain and mind are moving diagrams, right? So it is a higher part of the moving set. So that is why they are in demand over there. Now we know, yeah, please. Can you take the mic, please? I don't think I'll hear from them.
But then we cannot see that. What's moving in my mind.
Yeah, but still, it is a kind of visualization that is happening inside.
So isn't that thinking? Because
It
when we
is
think,
thinking.
we visualize a lot of
Yeah,
things.
it is thinking also, but it is thinking with in space. There's a kind of spatial movement where you're arranging zero ones in a certain way, right? So
So does it mean artists also have the designs in the spatial area?
what did you say?
Artists.
Artist.
The hard disk is the hardware.
Artists.
Yes, artists, definitely artists, definitely. Right? And, but the artist is more connected with the emotional center, because when the emotional center and the moving center can work in tandem, jugalbandi, then really a very higher form of artist. But there's, because when we go to see art, it is the emotion of the artist that we are trying to imbibe within us. Of course, not in modern art. Right? So, like if we see one of the greatest artists was Leonardo. And Leonardo, he, apart from art, he had so many designs of engineering to everything. And he's a typical example of the higher part of the moving center, the king of space, Leonardo. So the moving center is divided into three parts: the lower part, the jack, the mechanical part; the middle part, the queen, the what do you call emotional part; and the king, the thinking part. The jack, we also know that the jack in all the suits represents the memory of that suit. So all the memory is stored in the jack, the mechanical. Now, take one example. Say we are learning to ride a bicycle. So we first learn from the thing. If we are enthusiastic about that bicycle, then the king and queen are moving together. We have interest in it. After some time, the movements become habituated and the jack takes over. So we can, then we don't have to think about it. We can just ride the bicycle. And this is for so many movements. We can't imagine how many movements we do in the day. How many movements have been habituated in the jack of spades. Whether it is keyboard, whether it is the piano board, right? Complex movements it can do in very fast distance. Now, this is the easiest function, like I said, to observe, and it prepares us for observation of the other senses. Now, it can be observed that there is Z, because we said there is nearly zero attention in the chat. And we see this many times that we intend to do something and we do something else, right? So the wife tells the husband, you go to Safeway and get this fruit or something. And the husband goes about, but by then he doesn't remember what the wife has said. So he goes around in a circle and he comes back home, right? All the movements are through the jack. Many times we'll see that we have driven past our homes and we have to take a U-turn and we come back. So this is the jack is in command doing our movements. If we observe ourselves also in different ways, many times we go into the bathroom to brush our teeth. Instead of brushing our teeth, we wash our face and come out, or do something. Or many times we go into the bathrooms in the afternoon. Now we brushed our teeth in the morning. We're not brushing our teeth in the afternoon, but we put toothpaste on the brush and suddenly realize we are missing. And all these movements are done with nearly zero attention. Yeah, please.
the push of power button.
Notice that this kind of zero attention gets worse with age. Right?
Yes.
Why is that connected to it's big degeneration of the muscles and stuff? Right?
Yeah, and they say plaque accumulates in the brain cells, so it doesn't allow the firing of the neurons.
Oh, it's a physical.
Yeah, I just share something now that you brought it up, right, whether it's useful to you or not. One of the people who comes to my talks in New Jersey, he's working in Alzheimer's, and he did his PhD under one of the top Alzheimer scientists, right? Person who's very famous throughout the world. I can't remember his name. And he told me that they are 100% sure about rats, that this thing works, but to publish their scientific findings is going to take a few years. They are not allowed to publish it unless something else happens. And he says that this scientist who's working on Alzheimer's, and one day that scientist was also on YouTube and he wrote, "I don't forget to take my cinnamon and honey every day." Right? So 1 gram of cinnamon for 20 kilos of body weight, and mix it with honey and have it every day, and that will not allow the progression of Alzheimer's. So you may be forgetting till now, but it won't allow it to go ahead. It's something which can help, especially us because we are growing old, right? And just remember that the cinnamon which you buy is Ceylon cinnamon, right? Don't buy any other cinnamon because cinnamon can destroy the liver. Right? Ceylon cinnamon is the only one which is safe for the liver. And there's a lot of Chinese cinnamon in the market. Right? So you'll have to get Ceylon cinnamon. Maybe in your cooking you could use Chinese cinnamon. So this is the beauty of the human machine. It can perform in nearly zero attention. It can be daydreaming the whole day and still do everything which it has to do in the day. So we are in the jack, but we are not aware that we are in the jack. Now, many people, like we said, they have their center of gravity in the jack of spades, in the mechanical part. And this is a card which does not like interference in its work. It just goes about the what you call set movements of the day. And we will see that these people are very calm in their disposition, steady people. They enjoy living a routine. They don't want to come out of the routine. One of the characteristics of people centered in the jacks is that they are never bored of doing repetitive work, mechanical work. So if you have a jack, if you need somebody in your office to take something from this column and put it in this column the whole day, then you have to look for a jack of spades. It's not so easy to observe one. It takes time to observe. And because they can do repetitive work, they have a very high level of tolerance. They can tolerate a lot. They work for long hours without getting tired at all. So whenever you're looking for an employee for a dull routine job, right, look for a jack of spades. It could be performing these columns, or it could be the car assembly line, just performing the same movements in the assembly line, routine repair, data entry, etc. But we have to observe a person for a long time to come to the right conclusion. Initially, the person may be doing the job through the queen a little, that is through interest in doing the job, but after some time he may lose interest and just do it out of routine. Now, we also must observe the jack in all of us because we perform so many routine activities throughout the day, brushing your teeth, wearing your clothes, wearing your shoes, and it sometimes filters onto other activities which become routine, right? That having your breakfast at a certain time, and that very famous joke of the man shot his wife. So judge asked him, "Why did you shoot your wife?" And he says that I need breakfast at 9 o'clock. She brought it at 9:05. So it's the jack of spades. Everything has to go clockwork according to routine. Now, one way of knowing when we are in the jack is what do we do when we are emotionally upset, or what do we do when we are what you call very stressed in life. Now, if you see some women, when they are very stressed or if they've had a fight with the husband, they'll take out all the cutlery from the kitchen drawers and put it back. It's already arranged, but or maybe they'll take out things from the cupboard and put it back. Now, this is a typical jack of spades activity. They are always looking for some remedy from the moving center for their time. Right? So I remember we were staying at a friend's house in a place in the north of England. And I said, "Where's your husband gone?" "Oh, he's gone in the garden next door and he's mowing the lawn over there." Right? So this is typical jack of spades. He needs to do something. So if his lawn doesn't have to be mowed, he'll go and mow the public lawn, the municipal lawn in the garden. We see this now because of the coming of TV. And many people, they don't watch TV with interest. They are scrolling through channels all the time. And one channel to the other channel, and they are the jack of spades at that time. Then they may come into the queen, something interesting, then they will drop it and move to another. And they have, many people have this habit of when they're watching a TV show, is that when the advertisement comes, they start scrolling channels again. And this again is a property of the mechanical property of the jack of spades. One thing which a lot of my notes I have written in advertisements, that when I'm walking or watching a what do you call serial on TV, when when the advertisement comes, I switch off the sound and I start writing my notes at that time. Again, when it starts, I put it down. So a person who is not centered over here, right? And now, say husbands may have a habit when they are stressed or something, they would walk up and down. And so the other person, if he's not centered in the jack, he'll get bored of what the other person is doing. So if the wife is rearranging things, the husband will get bored. He's not centered in the jack. Or if the husband is going up and down, the wife would get bored. I don't know if you read the old Perry Mason novels, and Perry Mason was this lawyer who had this, could solve all the cases. But one of the things about his thinking in the novel, if you see, when he has to think, he's always walking up and down. Right? So just an understanding of this can save many relationships. So people here centered, they perform the same tasks day in and day out, same job year after year. Someone centered in the king of spades, the intellectual part, would lose interest after some time, but they just keep on doing the same thing. Again, these people are divided into three, the two, the three, the four, divided into three parts. So into the most mechanical part of the mechanical part, there'll be automatic reflex movement, which have become reflex through repetition. So many of our postures, and many times you're in the jack, if you go to the bathroom and you put your hand like this and the brush is not there. Say the husband has put the brush somewhere and he puts it at the same place, but one day the wife may be cleaning it and she puts the brush somewhere else. And next day morning his hand automatically goes there and then he's bewildered. Where is it? So we are in the jack of spades. So these automatic reflexes, this is the most mechanical part. Having a bath, everything happens automatically when we are having a bath. Driving, just routine procedure. Now in the three, which is the emotional part of the mechanical part, there is the art of imitation. When a child is born and his moving center is very active, the child's moving center actually is centered in the moving center for the first small part of his life. And especially the queen in the moving center, which we'll go to later. But here in the card 3, which is also the, what do you call, is the art of imitating people. And a child imitates very easily. But some of the imitations, even the child doesn't know he's imitating. And here parents have to be very careful where when the child grows up, we realize that he has imitated so many of the features of the husband and wife, mother and father, sorry. Now, in 2 we may be standing in a line, but there is no adaptation. But in 3, we can adapt our movements from standing in a line to climbing a bus for sports. So where a momentum change in movements is needed is the 3 and the 4. Now we have seen is the 4 in each card of each center has one quality, adaptation. Right? Now, if a person is centered in the mechanical part in 2 and 3, and he goes in a very crowded train or bus, he won't be able to adapt. He feels very uncomfortable, right? But the 4 is a person who goes in a very crowded train and he's able to find his way among the people and sort of adapt to a posture over there. Crossing the road. But if you are crossing the road with full traffic, then again it's the king, not the. Now here comes the memory of remembering roads, right? And that is in 4. That is, there's direction in the momentum. I take a part of the Queen of Spades, the emotional part of the moving center. The key to observing the Queen of Spades is attraction to movement. They are fascinated by movement. Their attention is caught by movement. But like we said yesterday, all queens live in extremes, right? So they may be fascinated by some movement for some time, but they may drop it and go back to the other extreme. The pendulum swings. So the Jack of Spades is a very stable card. The Queen of Spades is the most volatile, is a very volatile card. Right? there are two things over here. Either they want to move themselves, have experience of movement, or they love to watch other people moving. It could be in sports or anything. Huh? Yes. So it does not mean they will play the sport, all of them. Some may, some may not. But they have a love, a passion for what they are doing. If they're watching cricket or, and this is the card which takes us into extreme movement because they live in extremes and they may have a passion for dangerous movement, going in roller coaster, skydiving and things like that. And many times they do even break their bones. They love to go dancing. These are people who love to go dancing. But they won't adapt if the music changes suddenly. They'll feel lost if the music changes suddenly. So if the disc jockey changes the music from a fast tempo to a slow tempo, they'll find some time. To adapt, you need the king of spades, right? And many disc jockeys, they have their center in the king of spades. They can read the movements of the crowd which is dancing. They know now the crowd is getting a little tired, so they'll change the beat from the fast beat to the slow beat. Again, they know when the interest is increasing, they'll change the music from the slow beat to the fast beat. This is that part of the moving center which is actively active in youngsters. They love to go jump off cliffs and they like fast cars and roller coaster, etc. Now, another characteristic of the Queen of Spades is it makes extreme movements. That is, sometimes the movements are exaggerated. So if I have to put in a nail, there must be an exact movement. But if you see them, then the nail will be somewhere else and the hammer will go somewhere else. They make extreme movements, over exaggerated movements. Many times you will see such a person on TV when he's talking, there'll be exaggerated movements of the hands, and you know this person is centered in the Queen of Spades. Many times their bodies will also move with the hands and gestures. They love to be dramatic in life with their movements. So they will pronounce words in a dramatic way. Their movements will be dramatic. That is, they'll stylize the words to add a little pronunciation to it. And we see that with commentators on TV. But they are again subject to the law, the pendulum. For some time, they'll have keen interest in this sport and they may just leave it altogether as a bad joke. So this swing from intense involvement to intense interest to boredom, it happens in the queens. They can, if they love dancing, they can dance all night if they want. They love to travel. Now, one of the things about traveling, because these days it's become a passion to travel. And we talked about, I hope you remember, we talked about associations a few days ago, that anything new goes on the old paths. And unless we change the paths, there's nothing new in our life. We may say, I saw this new, I saw this new. It's all gone, right? And here today, there's a whole group of youngsters which are traveling all the time. And they don't realize that you have to change the pathways in the brain for something new in life. I once met one person who had traveled to 60 countries. They were traveling all the time. And the people in the Queen don't go by routine. They want to travel on their own. They don't want a guided tour, right? They want to explore by themselves. And there's a whole group of international travelers in this club. They do not like the boring, repetitive thing of what goes on in a conducted tour. They also are not, no, they are not like the queen of clubs, which loves luxury and resorts and things. They can go into the, what do you call, in what do you, they can experience roughness. They don't have to stay in very good hotels. They can have a backpack and camp everywhere. Sometimes they love to travel in poor countries where their currency has a high denomination, right? And somehow, because the queen is the outward moving card, they make friends. They may go somewhere traveling without a friend, and they'll meet friends over there and make friends over there, and they'll have bonfires at night, and they'll dance with the bonfires and that kind of thing. And sometimes they even travel in this very frugal way without money, and they will ask somebody, okay, I'll stay here for 3 months. Can I earn some money so I can travel a little more? Their attention is always held by some moving activity. It could be river rafting, climbing a mountain, active sports. Either they do it or they have to observe. Now, one thing, each center has a different supply of energy. And we mistake tiredness sometimes for something else. Right? Now, maybe I've done a lot of intellectual work today. And by the end of the day, I'm very tired. Means I have used up all the petrol which goes on into the intellectual center. I have not used anything in the moving center. And such people, they shouldn't sit idle watching TV. They should first exercise the moving center by going for a walk or something and use up the energy of the moving center. Otherwise, it gets stale. The muscles of the body, they lose their elasticity. And it is these people who tend to, come home, they're very tired intellectually. They don't exercise the moving center. And they are the people who tend to smoke or tend to take a couple of drinks in the evening to get rid of the tiredness, right? And that may become a habit. Again, here we have three parts, the 5, 6, and 7. In 5, they just do tracking for the sake of tracking. Their movements are for the sake of doing it. But in 6, the queen, again, the emotional part, there is enjoyment, there is creativity, there is harmony movements. So in 5, the person may be dancing in the same movements, but in 6, the emotional part comes and there'll be some creativity in the movement, some new movement will be done in the rhythm, swinging, etc. And in 7, again, there is adaptation, innovation, and what do you call? They love to have something to innovate, the features of a new car, the features of a new computer, the features of a new phone. We'll go into the King of Spades tomorrow, the higher part of the moving center. We still have 2-3 minutes left. Any questions? Yeah, please. Please take the mic if you can.
So I have 3 questions. One is, how do we become like Jack of Spade or Queen of Spade or King of Spade? And second is, ideally what should be? And third question is, some of the qualities which you explained today, personally, some falls in Jack, some falls in Queen. So how is it? Like, are we sometimes 6 of in the 6 or sometimes in Jack, like that?
When we are doing routine activities, we are in the 5, which is a part of the, we are in 2, which is a part of the Jack. But if there's a sudden interest in the activities, then we are in the 3. A simple example, supposing I have a bath every day with the same soap, then I'm in the routine part of it. But today I see a new soap in the market and I'm excited about trying the soap the next day, then I'm coming the queen or the emotional part of it. Can you understand what I'm trying to say? There is no ideal center. The ideal is that all of them should work in balance. Each one is equally important. The idea is to bring them in harmony and rhythm and balance. And that is done through the process of self-observation. Why we are studying this is that when we observe ourselves, we know in which center and in which part of the center, in which minor part of center we are each time. Now, supposing these gestures are completely mechanical, then I'm in the 2 part of the Jack. But if I make a little innovation in my gesture, then I go in the 3 or 4 part. Right? If my gestures are totally mechanical, there is no attention, then I'm in the 2. But if there's a little attention going there, then I'm in the 3. So this is to tell us what we are doing with our attention. And that attention we are observing, looking inside. Right? And this science has come out through the process of self-observation. It is not an empirical science like chemistry or physics or something. It is, well, like I said in the beginning, it is self-knowledge. Right? And we come to that knowledge through observing ourselves. So all these cards are within us. Then you said, why 1 card? Like I said, when we are born, all the cards are in balance. But when by the time we are 5 or 6 years old, we have our center of gravity has shifted to 1 card. That doesn't mean the other cards are not within us. They also express themselves, but a major part of our day will go in that 1 card where we are, where our center of gravity. That is how our personality is formed. And it is through observation that we bring balance. So all the cards are functioning in rhythm and balance.
Sorry, suggesting that by self-observation, let's say, for example, you have the Queen of Swords, right? Extreme, one of those. So by self-observation, can you control that in some way? Are you suggesting that it's possible?
In our initial stages of self-observation, we don't control anything. We just want to look. After some time, then we learn to bring creativity. And when there is high innovation and creativity, we always move towards the king. Right? So there is directed attention.
Or in the beginning, it's only observation.
Only observation. Yes, please.
Yeah. So you said initially all centers will be empty. After
Except the instinctive center.
center.
Right?
So after certain age, we will our center of gravity should move to one of the it will fall among one of the cards. So does that mean external factors affect?
Yes.
And then we pick one card,
right?
Not internal.
Simple example I'll give. That when I die, say 1,000 angers become one drop of perfume. That drop of perfume is lying in my electrical field when I'm born. Right? Now, if my mother and father are not angry people, then I will, through the moving center, start imitating them. So that anger has come with me, right? But it is not getting enough of water to really germinate into something. So it will not form a major part of my personality. It will still be a part of my personality, but it won't form a major part of my personality. Can you understand what I'm trying to say? So when I come with so many possibilities. Then through upbringing, schooling, and mainly parenting, which possibilities which from the liquid form become the ice cube form or crystallize into something. And that crystallization becomes my personality. that does not mean the possibilities are not there. They lie behind. And when we go into yoga, we delve into that anger, which we held in liquid form, which is still lying in liquid form, and we can transform it. But first, we have to work with our personality, and then that is called the essence, where we move into our essence.
So based on our careers, right? Every day, based on their careers, isn't the center of gravity based also on the careers that people choose? Like someone is software engineer, someone is a housewife, right?
It plays a role.
But then it will change as the career changes also.
The center of gravity may change as the career changes.
Right? Like I was a housewife before, so I was more emotional. Now, if I start working, then the thinking center will start.
But when you go into the intricacies, somewhere, even in your career, the queen will be expressed at different places.
Yeah. So how do you change then?
Again, I say for a long time, we observe it. Then the changing is done through bringing creativity. Now, I have the energy of anger. Can I transform it into something higher? Just now, if I go to transform it before looking at it, I'm going to create a mess.
And then is our essence related to the center of gravity in the card? Like say, for example, if someone is a good trainer, right? Say if someone is a good sportsman, right? And that person picks a job of being a trainer.
Being a trainer,
right? Is it also the center of the centers are also associated with the essence that they bring in, that they'll choose that career because of that center?
A lot of it is what they've brought with them, but it is also parenting and upbringing and school. And if you go back in your memory, you will see some interest was kindled in school also.
So I'm just trying to understand the utility of the whole diagram and the whole, like the boxes and the cards. So I'm trying to understand the utility of it for my betterment. So by understanding where my card is, if I don't know where I want to be, like you said, that if all the cards are good and we will be in one card one time and for the other card on some other time of the day or maybe a month.
Yeah.
So by understanding which card or gravity or center I am, how am I going to improve my life, or how am I going to use that information? One, I understood by observing and then being conscious. So if I be conscious, am I automatically going to be enough?
First of all, forget consciousness. Forget observation. Supposing just this knowledge which we are discussing, the information part of it, not even the understanding part of it, right? Just what we are discussing, and we've got 2 more days to discuss. If you just read through it 2, 3 times, 4 times, on its own, will it bring a change in your life? Can you understand? Right?
I'll be more aware.
You bring awareness, right? You'll say, oh, I'm brushing my teeth with a 2. Can I now brush my teeth with a 3? Or is it necessary to brush the teeth with a 3? Right? So then you'll say, okay, I'm brushing my teeth, but let me bring some innovative movement. So I move it to a higher level of attention. Right? And it is through attention that we reach consciousness. When attention looks upon itself, it is consciousness. When attention folds upon itself, it is consciousness. So I'm not talking about self-observation or Just the very knowledge what we have gained in these few days, right? It will help you to forget spirituality, forget consciousness, forget inner self-observation. But even if you're doing your job, or will it help you to understand all that better or not? Right? Somebody's not interested in spirituality, but not interested in self-observation. But just this basic knowledge will help us to lead a better life.
The one question I have is it necessary to do everything consciously at all? Like the example you gave, driving, some of these things just automatic, right? Is it even necessary at all to do
Not,
that?
not at all.
Not at all, right? So
Not at all.
so okay.
Not at all. The routine jobs, that is why we talked about the jack of spades. Wearing your clothes, don't bring consciousness there. The first place we have to bring consciousness is where we are reacting in life. I'm wearing my clothes, I'm not reacting to her insult. Right? Can you understand? We have to bring conscious. This is just to where we are at each moment in our life. This gives us a map of where we are and how to observe it. So be conscious of the important things. Don't be conscious of the unimportant things. It's not the right way to say it, but I just say it for better understanding. Don't take it the way. Supposing we have servants to do certain chores in our home, certain jobs in our home, right? So we don't have to look the whole day what the servant is doing. Similarly, brushing, wearing clothes, having bath, driving car, these are all done by our servants, right? And you don't have to bother there. But suddenly the muscles tense. Now I have to bother because somewhere I've disliked something. Somewhere that has come in the muscles. The inner pattern is being formed and I want to be free of the old pattern. Where am I going to add a new pattern to it? Okay? That is where we become conscious. I can't hear of that.
No, I think you already answered. So I'm just sharing my thought or my heart is that I kind of disagree that whenever we are doing our daily chores, even there, we have to bring the attention. કારણ કે ત્યારે પણ વિચારો ચાલુ જ હશે અને જો હું એ ફરી વિચારોમાં હોઈશ તો હું મારું જે કામ કરતો હોઈશ એનું આઉટપુટને પણ અફેક્ટ કરશે એટલે મને એવું લાગે છે કે attention should be constant. No matter what smallest task I'm doing, it can be a mechanical task, but I can bring attention in that also.
Yeah, but these are tasks which can be performed with minimal attention, right? And again, to hold attention in something, I'm using energy. Can you see? Now, if I go to brush my teeth with directed attention, it's not needed. That energy is needed to take attention inside. Can you see? For self-observation, to bring consciousness. So if I'm, performing my daily chores with too much of attention, then I'm spending energy in the wrong place. Can you get what I'm trying to say? Because unless we have a certain quantity of psychic energy, we can't hold attention. You try holding attention on something for a long period of time, you'll try to fall back into lower parts of the centers, right? And to hold attention, we need a certain amount of psychic energy. Supposing we say there are 3 stages of higher spirituality, right? Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, what Patanjali talks about. And just take this offhand as different stages of holding attention. Now, how much of energy you will need to reach that state? You don't want to waste your energy in the wrong place, right? But you can bring creativity. You're arranging the table, you can bring a little bit of creativity, right? You'll fold the napkin in a different way. So it brings, and you bring a little bit of attention into that. Yeah, you can bring creativity.
important in life really is to switch from the jack to the queen or king. Because you're doing something mechanically, and suddenly there is a need. For example, let's say you're driving mechanically on a road, and there's a hazard there, and you have to react to it. So you are going to a higher consciousness.
You'll go into
That
the
is
queen.
difficult part.
You'll immediately be attracted by that. So you go into the queen, or somebody says the police is in front of you. Immediately from the jack, you'll go into the queen. But if we are observing, we will realize that our level of attention has changed from the jack to the queen. Right? Now, say if we are moving in a higher state, we will adapt. Just me talking, huh? Just me talking. Now, say on the highways in India, I don't know about here, we have these police posts. So they stop you sometimes and ask, what are you carrying in your car, etc. Now, I have learned one thing, that if you don't look at them, 99% they don't stop you. But if you pay attention, you're gone. Can you understand? Right? Now, take it in another way, the events of life. The events of life. Supposing I go to meet a friend who is ill. Right? Now, supposing, and this happens to everyone, deep down, he is ill, it should not happen to me. Now, in that, have I connected to that illness? Can you see what I'm trying to say? Now, if we are observing our thoughts, we'll say, okay, I don't want to, put energy into this thought, let it go away. So if you're observing the thinking center at that time, okay? Right? But the minute I say, he has got it, it should not happen to me, in whatever way I say it inside, the karma is done. Karma is done. Okay, we'll stop here. Thank you. Jai Shri Krishna. Good night.
So, we all just 1 second. Tomorrow's routine. Tomorrow we have exercises from 10 to 12 in the morning over here. And talks tomorrow is at 5 to 7. 5 to 7 tomorrow, and on Sunday the talk is from 4 to 6. Everybody, we have 2 more centers to cover. We'll try to finish the talk.